Hi, I'm Sikivu Hutchinson, founder of Black Skeptics Los Angeles and the Women's Leadership Project program based in South LA. I'm also the author of the 2020 book, Humanist in the Hood, Unapologetically Black, Feminist, and Heretical. And I'm going to read an excerpt from that book. Feminism and atheism are dirty words that Americans across the political spectrum love to hate and debate. Throw them into a blender, and you have a toxic brew that defies decency, respectability, and Americana. Trot them out in debates about abortion or LGBTQI plus rights, and you can unite white conservative evangelicals and Black hoteps, or Black folks who subscribe to a narrow version of Afrocentrism, in a sneering, strange bedfellows love fest. I came to feminism as a baby atheist growing up in South LA. My first pangs of unapologetic godlessness were in Catholic school, sitting in dreary religion classes run by sanctimonious white male teachers made me despise the Bible, its moral hypocrisies, and its violent woman-hating language. It was inane to me that a centuries-old good book could dictate that I remain silent, bow down to patriarchs, step back as chattel, and view my body as an impure vessel of original sin, redeemable only through self-sacrifice and submission to a male deity. It was madness that these atrocities could be justified by the unquestioned moral righteousness of a Christian tradition that condoned slavery, rape, and homophobia. The beauty, or so-called beauty, and majesty of the good book and the omnipotent God at the cosmic switch of the universe were a patent lie in the face of all the suffering and inequality I saw right in front of me. So while some were able to compartmentalize these fascistic tenets, cherry pick the good stuff ad nauseum, and divorce the bad stuff from God, I decided that it didn't make sense to give the Bible, nor any so-called holy book that gave supernatural beings dominion over mere earthlings, a pass. Why not cut out the theological claptrap and chuck gods altogether? Why not concede that the crazy quilt of theistic belief systems, creeds, and dogmas that sprawl across cultures and nations was a far greater testament to human artfulness than godly omniscience? As a 12-year-old accustomed to hearing about how that conniving temptress Eve screwed up folks as residents in the Garden of Eden, it was clear to me that much of the policing of femininity that I and other girls encountered had a strong basis in Christian religious dogma. From the moment we're assigned the female gender at birth, girls' sexuality is a commodity, an object, an asset, and a liability to be marketed, bought, sold, and controlled in a birth to death cycle in which girls and women are straitjacketed by a litany of do's and mostly don'ts. Don't sit this way, walk this way, talk this way, dress this way, don't go there, hang out with them, drink, smoke, act like a bitch, act like a hoe, act like a dude, get yourself raped or knocked up. And when you get older, supposedly beyond the regime of the sexualizing male gaze, don't ever, ever think you will be relevant, whether you have kids or not. At every stage, organized religion, through the language of the grindingly policing theism, is there to impose boundaries and limits. The Catholic school that I went to for 1 year was a perfect training ground for this dance of invisibility. In the Reagan years, it was widely viewed by some middle-class Black and Latinx parents as an antidote to the so-called bad schools in South LA and neighboring Inglewood, then a predominantly Black community that had been largely white up until the late 1960s. On the surface, the school's virtually all-white faculty and ethnically diverse student body were poster children for multicultural integration. Beneath that shiny facade, the school had the usual cauldron of hierarchies, bullying cliques, authoritarian religious bureaucrats, predatory jocks, and favorites playing teachers. Then as now, private religious schools were microcosms of a segregated two-tier educational system. Middle-class and working-class parents of color, desperate to give their children a leg up, bus them to elite schools, hoping against hope that the racial tensions that fueled post-Brown v. Board of Education desegregation battles wouldn't affect their babies. These affluent white students lived in Tony single-family homes and condos that dominated the multi-million-dollar beachside community where the school was based. Black and Latinx students, on the other hand, crammed public buses, traveling from the demonized inner city to the mostly white West Side. The implications of this dichotomy would shape my budding consciousness about public education, public space, race, and gender. Institutional racism, sexism, and heterosexism were critical to the disciplinary regime of the white savior patriarchs and matriarchs who adopted a missionary mentality about youth of color while policing girls' bodies and conduct. Girls who violated the dress code were shamed and forced to put on skirts provided by the male dean, a double standard that was not imposed on boys. Although Catholic dogma and Catholic hierarchy informed this regime of power, authority, and control, I saw no significant difference between these practices and those of other Christian power structures that also enforce binaries of good, bad, self-other, male, female, gay, straight, and Christian heathen, while giving so-called religious leaders a cover for immorality and bigotry. Very early on, I was a humanist and a feminist without necessarily having the language to break it down that way. Being humanist and feminist demands questioning received dogmas and slaying sacred cows whose very existence depends on your erasure. To subscribe to a human-centered notion of morality, ethics, and justice as a Black woman is an outlier position that carries social, political, and professional risks. Much of the emerging literature on Black atheist and humanist experience chronicles the perils of Black folks rejecting theism. And according to the Pew Religious Research Forum, 87% of African Americans are religiously identified, making us among the most religious ethnic groups in a nation that is itself majority religious and Christian. And certainly, it's become pro forma to note that Christians, Muslims, Jews, and believers from other faiths routinely cherry pick what they like and discard what they don't from their holy books. Flipping it another way, do gods give a damn about universal health care, access to stable, affordable housing, and the right to earn a living wage with benefits for everyone? What use are gods who don't protect bodily autonomy and the right to self-determination for queer, non-binary, and gender non-conforming folks? And what use are they if they don't protect these rights for women or folks with disabilities? What, in fact, do supernatural deities say about these specific socioeconomic, cultural, and social issues? And why do they remain abjectly silent if they are, in fact, omnipotent and omnipresent? Of course, the short, reductive answer is that these are contemporary human matters that didn't exist eons ago when gods first dropped knowledge on the holy men, emphasis on men, entrusted with codifying and relaying their wisdom to the unwashed masses. But if gods are in fact all-knowing, why do they rely on imperfect messengers to unpack and screw up interpretations of their doctrines across the centuries? If they are all-powerful, why do they allow predators and thieves to infest the leadership of every major religious denomination on the planet? This line of questioning echoes Epicurus's timeless critique of the basic impotence and bankruptcy of theism. Omnipotent so-called just gods who can't ensure a universe free from evil, cruelty, and human suffering are not, in fact, omnipotent, just, or godly. Thank you.